Hello! I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours. And I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour, because you gotta pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you. So something happened on one of my tours the other night that reminded me of a couple of other stories I wanted to tell you. So what happened the other night was I was just in the middle of the end of my story, the end of my tour, and I suddenly realized everyone's giggling. And when people are giggling, that's usually a sign I should look behind me. And sure enough, I turn, and there's a man walking down the middle of the street with his friends who has just dropped trow. Like, his pants are hanging from roughly about mid-thigh. His ass is completely uncovered because he is wearing a jock strap as underwear, so there's a lot visible there. And I sort of just snicker and turn to my guests and go, "Sorry about the ass." And one of them says, "Penis too. You missed the penis." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's nice. Was it impressive?" And her response, not really. But that reminded me of a time a couple of months ago when I was doing a stop at one of the hotels right off Bourbon Street. And that location is a location that used to be a convent. So I'm telling a story about nuns. And suddenly my guests are snickering and looking a bit red. And I turn and look, and sure enough, there is a buck-ass naked man in the window of one of the hotel room windows. And he is right up against the glass. The blinds are open, the curtains are open, and he is dancing. And he's having a grand old time. He's shaking his ass, he's helicoptering, he's having a great evening. And the fun thing about it is I'm pretty sure he had no idea we could see him. He was very far gone, and he was not looking anywhere that I could see a focus. So it made it a bit hard to finish telling a story about nuns. But one of my other favorite figures from the French Quarter that I haven't seen in forever, I don't know if he's still down there or not. There used to be a guy that would come down and dance in the middle of the street, usually wearing as little clothing as you could get away with and even count as vaguely decent. Like, he usually either wore a thong or a G-string. Occasionally he'd wear, like, something on top too. Usually it was just like a see-through cape. And he was an amazing dancer. And more importantly, he was short and petite with a very robust ass. And from the back, it was hard to tell whether or not he was a girl, boy, or non-binary. No way of telling. We just would see him dancing, and quite often, so many times, I'd have guests walking by him and making comments like, "Oh yeah, I'd tap that." And then he'd turn around and they'd realize that he was a guy, and they'd suddenly be like, "Oh, well, yeah, But I will admit, I sort of miss seeing him prance by in next to nothing. One more of these quick stories. There was a night I was leading a relatively quiet group, and specifically there was an older couple on it who were one of those groups that I'm like, "Have y'all ever been in a city?" And so they're shocked and appalled at everything, and we're passing by one of the gay bars, and it seems it was underwear night, because all around the exterior of the building were just men wearing nothing but underwear. Now, most of these guys are, of course, wearing cute underwear. They're wearing nice boxer briefs or interestingly shaped briefs. But there was one guy just standing there in his tighty-whities with an obvious erection, and I'm just looking over and being like, "Yep, that's a penis." And nope, it was not impressive. So, come to New Orleans. Lord only knows what you'll see. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to share your own experiences in the comments below.